and you are listening to KBVR Corvallis.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Music to Our Ears, the music talk show where we talk about all things music and more, essentially, as we kind of branch out in our fourth season of the show. How about we do some introductions in the room?
I guess I'll go first. I'm Amergin. I'm one of the hosts of Music to Our Ears.
My name's Amergin. I'm one of the hosts of Music to Our Ears.
And I'm the other host to Music to Our Ears, Evangeline.
And I'm Kaylene. I'm the producer. And then I get to come out of my little producer cage for radio shows at least once a term. So I always look forward to these and have a good time. But today we're talking all about movie soundtracks, movie scores, and kind of everything in between. So we've got a lot planned for y'all, starting with kind of, the thing that you think of when you imagine, like, close your eyes and you're like, okay, picture like a soundtrack or an iconic score, and you're like, okay, sci-fi movies, Star Wars primarily.
Yeah, we're a bit early on this, but the idea is that this episode will come out officially later. So, May the 4th is coming up, which of course is Star Wars Day, which it's insane, first and foremost, that a movie series has a day. I mean, it's not official, but I mean, it's so stuck in the cultural consciousness that everyone's like, oh, May the 4th's coming up.
Well, and it's a whole week too.
Mm-hmm.
Like people, it's like
May the 4th be with you.
It's May the 4th.
The whole week.
And then it's like C3PO, like May, I don't know. I can't remember them. I remember them freshman year because living in the residence halls on campus, they like had like a pizza special based on like every day of Star Wars week. And it was really funny.
Well, the campus does the little delivery Starship robots.
Yeah.
Whenever you get them on May the 4th, they'll actually do the C3PO, no, not C, the R2D2, like
yeah,
bleeping
they
and
do
booping.
little beep, 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 beep.
But yeah, so of course, since we're more music focused, we figured we'd talk about, like you said, the soundtrack to the Star Wars films, which is very well known, very iconic. What more is there? I mean, there's a lot more to say, but
Yeah.
the first thought, I mean, it's the big one. It's the
moneymaker.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of another franchise except Harry Potter that has made as much money as Star Wars has.
Yeah. No, commercially, like, Star Wars is ridiculously successful.
Yeah.
And it's very tied to Star Wars, very famous, at least the first movie. A New Hope was very famously kind of saved in editing. Famously, George Williams. George Lucas was a bit of he was very enthusiastic about the project, of course, but because of that, he kind of wanted too much control, and he kind of had to be wrangled back a bit. And in editing, a lot of what we know as, A New Hope was put together there. And as part of that, the music was thrown in there as well. And John Williams' score is so closely tied to the film that's just impossible to separate.
Oh, for sure. Like, I feel like I use like a lot of Star Wars music to like study sometimes, but it's so magical how like you don't even need the movie to like enjoy it. Like, just listening to the soundtrack alone, or like just listening to the music is like, oh, I can just like close my eyes and I'm in space, or like I can like visualize Darth Vader like walking down a hallway like ominously, or like Yoda just like meditating, or like you can just like visualize all those like iconic characters.
Yeah.
And like when you like, not even just like the movies, but the music itself, even if you're not that big of a fan or you haven't watched all the movies, you know the intro music.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like so many sitcoms and everything that have used like the intro, like the way that they do with like the space background, and like the way that the titles are just moving upwards the screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like slanted.
Yeah.
I've seen that in so many sitcoms, like That 70s Show. There's that like actual not sitcom, but parody of Star Wars. You know what I'm talking about?
What do you mean?
The very inappropriate one that I don't know if we can talk about on here, but they definitely...
Spaceballs?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's just Star Wars is just so iconic. Yes, the music... the music plays a huge part, but I just think the franchise in general is just so marketable because everybody knows it.
Yeah.
Even if you're from like Generation Z or Gen Alpha or Alpha Gen. I don't know. No, it's just I think Star Wars will always be around because your parents loved it, your grandparents loved it, you love it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or you just can't avoid it.
It's so timeless, and it's like
it's
even
everywhere.
if you try to like shut it out, you're probably not gonna.
You know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and especially being a part of like attached to Disney too, it's like you really can't avoid it.
It's very unavoidable.
And one of the reasons for its memorability, going back once again to the score, like you were saying, like being able to hear something and being able to visualize it. There's been a lot of discussion about that, recently because of course Disney paid a lot of money for Star Wars. They want to get their money out of it, so they've been putting out a lot more movies, a lot more TV shows, just a lot more Star Wars things out there. And that music is very important to drawing that like emotional core, right? If you go to like Disney World or Disneyland, they all have their Star Wars areas. You go in there, the music you're hearing as you're walking around is like you're hearing bits of the Star Wars soundtracks from all 9 movies.
Exactly,
right?
just as you're exploring it, and it's like
it's immersive.
Yeah, fully immersive. Yeah. Especially with how like Star Wars, or at least like I know the most about like Star Wars Land in Disneyland, but since it is like you walk in and you're like, okay, I'm like in Star Wars, and then like the music's playing too. It's just like, okay, guys, I'm like in the movie.
Yeah, and a lot of that's due to John Williams. Just we'll get more into John Williams in general because there's a lot more to him than just Star Wars, which I think there's a bit of a. Anyway,
we'll talk about it later.
But like the reason why that is because John Williams is basically the king of the leitmotif. He is all of his soundtracks are they have what is it? In the 19th century, there's a guy named Richard Wagner, who is not the best person, but is also very well known for this idea of, he writes for theater, and this idea of you should play musical elements that represent characters or themes or events happening, right? And part of that is because he's writing for opera. And opera can be difficult to understand sometimes because obviously there's a language barrier.
Yeah.
If you have a French audience, you're going to, for Wagner, everything's going to be in German, right? So it's easier to have those musical elements that tie to characters or moments or whatever. And John Williams basically... that's basically his whole, I don't want to say shtick because I don't want to say it's like, it's lesser or anything, but that's basically what makes his scores
it's like
so
the
memorable.
blueprints and like, and then applying them to something like Star Wars, I think helps a lot, especially when you have like, even with like the more modern films, you can still like tell where like all the base of like the villain, like all the villain songs like have that same like very deep, like brooding, like evil
energy
tone to them. And then like on like when you have like the Jedis and stuff, like all of those songs are a lot more like upbeat and very like powerful, and it like helps a lot because you don't even need to like know Luke Skywalker's like our main like protagonist, and you could just hear the music and you're like, oh, okay, like he's important.
And that's the whole cool thing about it, because there are a lot of people who have done a lot of like digging into the Star Wars scores. And pulling out like all of these themes and musical identities. This is one of the things John Williams is really good at, is taking these themes and reusing them and remaking them. So making them fit different contexts. And because of that, the emotional identity changes a lot, but there's still like a core to it that is going to be there the whole time. And some of this is on purpose. Some of it's accidental. One of the best examples here is Binary Sunset. The music that's playing when Luke is looking over the dunes, he's staring at the binary suns, and you hear this, what eventually starts becoming known as like the Force theme start playing. But the interesting thing is that it wasn't supposed to be there in the first place, because that theme, you first hear that when Ben Kenobi's introduced, when he saves Luke from the Jawas, and you hear a bit of the melody start coming in, and John John Williams was like, all right, this is like Ben Kenobi's theme, right? And George Lucas was like, well, I like that's
I like that.
I was like, that should go there. And because of that, it became a lot more associated with the Force in general. So this theme actually changes a lot throughout the movies, so much so that by the time you get to the sequels, episode 7, 8, and 9, it develops like this entirely different identity to the point where it becomes the theme, right?
Yeah.
Like you hear the Force theme a lot more than you do the actual Star Wars theme in episode 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah. They use it a lot in those 3.
They use it in The Last Jedi specifically. I think it gets used 21 times.
That's insane.
No, it is. And so you have these musical identities and the cores you can pull from. It's very interesting. It's very dynamic to see what people do with that, not just in the the mainline Star Wars movies, but also in all of the like spin-off stuff, right? Because those themes, like, it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere, right? But everyone has their own little like tie-in about what they want to do with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
What is it? Kevin Kiner, who's the guy who wrote most of the animated TV shows soundtracks. So he wrote for Star Wars: The Clone Wars, not the Genndy Tartakovsky one, the Cartoon Network one. He wrote for that. He wrote for The Bad Batch. He wrote what he was brought in for Ahsoka. Kind of anywhere Dave Filoni goes, he goes with him.
Oh, nice.
And it's funny because a lot of his work is reinterpreting John Williams's themes into completely different material. It's very cool to see like once again, it's all about that reinterpretation. It's about drawing these themes, making them something new, making something different, giving them new context. And you can, like I said, there's a lot you can do with that musical identity and make it impact the movie itself.
Yeah, for sure. And then John Williams kind of carries that throughout, like, I feel like a lot of his films that he ends up doing.
Yeah.
And like making just like, really iconic scores that connect to those characters, connect to like, your protagonist, antagonist. Like in like Jurassic Park is like a great example because like you take a film about like dinosaurs, that are like being brought back to life, and have like one of the like coolest, like that's another fun soundtrack to like, or score to like study to.
No, Jurassic Park is fun. Of course, Indiana Jones. Of course, you were saying earlier, Harry Potter. John Williams is kind of he's become the king of the soundtrack over the past few decades. Like he has written the most memorable soundtracks out there.
Yeah.
A personal favorite of mine, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is interesting because that's actually John Williams's, depending on when you ask him, that's his favorite soundtrack that he's written. And it's because, well, I mean, he explains it as like, oh, it was like really experimental, it was really interesting, which, that's true. But I think also a large part of it is because of the process that he actually played in producing it. Because normally, when you're talking about film soundtracks, you're talking about things that are written after the principal shooting is done, right? So you're talking about films that have already been put together, or at least have a rough edit. Yeah. And the composer comes in and is like, all right, we'll put this here, this there, this there. And Close Encounters of the Third Kind is one of the few movies that Williams has actually had a hand in being there from the very beginning, being there in pre-production, right? Because Close Encounters of the Third Kind is not built around, but a big part of it is the 5-note, the da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And that was written before, that was like one of the most fundamental parts of the whole movie that was put together way before shooting was even starting. And it shows kind of John Williams' strength in that role. His ability to put together, like I said, take this very simple 5-note theme and blow it up into an entire soundtrack.
Yeah, basically, right? Just like, this one tiny little idea, and then you're like, that's the whole movie.
Yeah. And he's just like, John Williams, he is the man. He is the best at it. And it's a great soundtrack. I don't know what else to say. It's amazing. He's been doing this. He was first started writing in 1958.
Something like a while, like when I was looking up like just the amount of films. Yeah, he did so many things like back in the 50s and stuff that I didn't even like. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, he's been around forever.
Yeah. No, he was a student of Mario Castronuovo, who came over in 1939. He's an Italian composer who basically fled from the fascists. And he came over, worked for MGM, wrote like 200 film scores. Very well known for his guitar compositions as well.
Oh, yeah.
But John Williams studied under him, along with a ton of other people. But John Williams is probably the most famous student of his.
Yeah.
I started working, like I said, 58 with Daddy-O. He didn't work with Spielberg until 74 with Sugarland Express. And from there, like I said, John Williams and Spielberg are kind of the most associated with each other because he's the most like consistent, a partner with him.
Yeah, they do a lot of, and that's cool. Like, is like one thing that I do like about like particular directors is like when they like find composers or like certain like actors or things like that they're like, I like working with you. You're gonna be in all of my things. Like it's a fun, I don't know, like almost like an Easter egg, but like just kind of like a fun thing.
Yeah.
And then we kind of didn't touch like too much on like sci-fi and stuff, but like even like there's a lot of stuff with like Jerry Goldsmith too, and like that kind of whole arena.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're kind of two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Like we're saying, John Williams is much more classically oriented. He's, like I said, Wagnerian. And Jerry Goldsmith on the other side is completely experimental. He's an example of like this new age directorial approach. He is an example of new age directorial approach because all the people he works with are like, these are whiz kids sort of directors where they're like producing stuff that's really off the walls.
Yeah.
And Goldsmith's soundtracks kind of match that energy really well. Even though, once again, he was also a student of Mario Castelnuovo. So they're kind of they come from the same background, which is interesting.
They're like their own Leia and Luke almost. One turned into a princess, the other one a Jedi. But yeah, that's kind of the bulk of like John Williams. We'll give y'all a little snippet of some of John Williams' work with playing some Indiana Jones, which is another like just like a small like adventure film. They're like, okay, whatever, and then it just kind of grew into like this whole franchise. But yeah, another soundtrack where like you can hear it and you're like, yep, Indiana Jones. Like, yeah. I can name it right off the top of my head. So we're going to take a quick break for y'all listening to our radio station. We're going to play the Indiana Jones theme. If not, if you're watching on TV, we'll be right back after this short break.
All right, we go live in 5, 4. Ready, camera 2. And wipe it. Welcome to KBVR TV. Come join our team.
All right, and we are back. We were just kind of talking about how the Indiana Jones theme kind of turned into the most like Disneyland song ever. You just like picture like walking through the gates, smelling the smells, the fans like on you. But kind of transitioning with Disney, one of the other big composers we really wanted to talk about was Michael Giacchino, which has done just like
a lot,
so much,
so many,
so much.
Yeah. I was just talking about, well, because he's done, it seems like both Disney and Pixar.
Yeah.
My personal favorite, Ratatouille. Oh, I love that movie, and it's I think it's everybody's favorite, honestly. How can you? I've never met somebody that said Ratatouille. No,
Well, I mean,
Because the soundtrack-
but not favorite though.
Okay, fair.
But no one hates. I
but
don't
no
think
one
anyone
hates
like
Ratatouille.
hates
Yeah,
it unless
no-
maybe they have like a fear of rats. That I'm
Yeah.
like,
Or they
that's-
don't like the French, and I mean I can understand, but like let's rethink this. I think that soundtrack is so good because it has like all the classic French songs, but it's also unique. And it's not like Lily Emily in Paris kind of like cringe French music.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, like this is like classic French music, but also a twist on it. And I really, really appreciate that because I hate when it's just generic La Vie en Rose music
Yeah.
over and over
Yeah.
and like there's really, really phenomenal classic music within the French genre, and I love that he utilized that. Another one of my favorites concerning different cultures, Coco, not Disney, Pixar. So good.
so beautiful, such beautiful visually and audibly.
He did his research. He did. Because as a Mexican woman, I can confirm that not only was I in tears, but my mother and her sister and my cousin, the whole family was in tears.
Yeah.
Because just like the writers, producers, everything did a phenomenal job with their own research too. But the music is so amazing. The mariachi music, like he did research. He did research or he knows somebody. I don't know. But he did a phenomenal job. He stayed true to the Mexican culture through the music. And in the Mexican culture, mariachis are everything.
Yeah.
You use them I've seen mariachis at funerals. I've seen mariachis at quinceañeras. I've seen at basic parties in the backyard. Like it is so vital to the Mexican culture. And I love that he appreciated that and used that instead of just finding some rip-off version of it, you know?
Yeah, he like definitely did his homework, and yeah, you can so tell. Like even just like I'm thinking like when Miguel even just like enters like the city, the like city or land of the dead or whatever for the first time, it's just like, yeah, you can just like you can feel it, you can hear it, you can see just like how visually stunning this like place is that they created,
And the music matches that on a tremendous level.
Yeah, and like he did Incredibles, which like I think
Also so good.
Did his homework on like cultures for like Ratatouille and Coco, but like did his research on like decades for like kind of having that like 50s 60s like
twist.
I can only think of like visuals right now. I can't think of like actual words, but like
he complimented it very well.
Yeah. Very much giving like quirky furniture and like with like the do 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 do, like it's just like it's so fun and like
Quirky Roomba.
yeah, like it's so quirky. So good. And then like he also did like a bunch of like Disney shorts too, which are like so cute because like those almost rely solely on like the visual component and like a composed sound. Like there's not usually like
The
dialogue
audible
for them.
component, yeah.
And like he did Partly Cloudy and Day and Night, which are like two of my favorites. Partly Cloudy makes me like cry because that's the one where it's like the storks are like they make all like or like the clouds are the ones that like make the babies and then the one cloud is stuck making like all like the ugly or like scary animals and you're like, but it's just a shark, like it's not ugly. But like the music like building up like showing that cloud gets like ostracized, being like kind of like sad, and then like the one like showing like how frazzled the one like stork is that works for them. That's like, bro, if you give me like a snake, I can't. Like,
I'm scared right now,
so
please.
scared. And just like being able to encapsulate that all with music without have it being like I'm sad or I'm scared. Like,
and like this man has range if I've ever seen it. He's got Mission Impossible on his resume. He's got Batman. He's got Jurassic World. He's got Wizard of Oz. He's got everything. Of course, the animations. Oh, okay. Correction. The Muppets. Still,
Which is that better? Who's
I
to
don't know,
say?
but he's also got Marvel.
yeah, he's done so many like little Marvel things and like
I'm just impressed with his range because like I know we love John Williams and his talent, but he stays true to what he does. You know, like he knows he's sci-fi, he knows that's what he's good at and he sticks to it, and I respect that.
Yeah.
But I feel like Michael just kind of, he's like, I like that movie. Sure, I'll do it. Cool.
Yeah, he like reads the script. He's like, I could. Oh, hold on, I'm cooking.
Hold on,
up some fire.
I'm cooking. I'm
Hold on.
cooking. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we talk about how John Williams worked for the original like Jurassic Park films, and then Michael Giacchino started on like a lot of the Jurassic Park video games.
He's
and
like,
then
hey,
he's like, hey guys, I could do that too.
do you need some
Like-
help?
And then did like the three or the
Jurassic World,
like the
which is
three
like
newest ones.
Yeah, which is Jurassic, yes, but like different.
Yeah,
Way different.
it's like, and it's cool because like I think it brings like
It revamped
he brings like a
franchise.
more modern sound with it, which is nice because it's a more modern world. Like it's dinos versus technology versus just dinos,
which
and
is
people.
crazy.
Yeah, those movies like scare me. Like I'm like the original Jurassic Parks, I'm like, okay, like whatever, it's on island, but like the Jurassic Worlds, they're like, yeah, so we like accidentally brought a dinosaur onto like America, and now they
but,
live
like,
with us, and you're like,
It's so realistic.
Bruh.
Like that's something that we would do.
Yeah.
Is like breed a dangerous animal and then be like, oh no, it's
They're like-
attacking us.
they're like, yeah,
like
we
what?
made this one smart enough to like track you down with a laser. Hey team.
Okay, let's rethink that project really quick. Where's the funding coming from? Why are we
Yeah.
doing this?
No, people want to pay money to see it. Okay.
Hey, I also love being alive. Yeah. I also love I love being my own apex predator and not having something else be the apex predator. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I like being top dog. Thanks.
Thanks. I like being top of the food chain.
I don't want to be sniped by a dinosaur.
like I don't want to be walking to class one day and just get absolutely
Yeah, like the
taken
one
up.
I haven't seen like the newest one, but the one in the middle where like the dinosaurs get released into like the world, and like the final shot being like most of the final shots are like the pterodactyls like flying over the water and stuff.
Yeah.
And then but like in the second, I think that's the Lost World, is like it's like going parallel with like a car, and you're like,
wasn't Jimmy Buffett in one of the newer ones, like the first Jurassic World? He was drinking a margarita.
Maybe.
And he was like running when they started attacking.
Yeah.
I loved that. What are they called?
cameo.
Cameos.
Yeah.
I love it. Rest in peace, Jimmy Buffett.
R.I.P. Mr.
R.I.P.
Margaritaville.
Anyways, I know we kind of touched on Marvel, so Spider-Man's really good. I think that's that soundtrack is
really
so good. So is Doctor Strange. I think they're a lot different than all the Marvel movies, to be
Wait,
completely
just to be clear,
honest.
which Spider-Man?
Well, he did the Marvel Spider-Man with Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's way different from the original Spider-Man. And I think he did a really good job of kind of staying true but also like making it better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really. Also, like spiraling with Marvel, like he does a lot of stuff with Taika Waititi, and I think that's like a testament to Taika, is like he does kind of like more like quirky sounds and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's got talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got talent. He got range. And like I think like he sees that in Michael too, and like I think they make a really good pair. Because like I watched like Jojo Rabbit was like a head trip of a movie. Like if you haven't seen it, highly recommend. Like Taika is like one of my favorite like new age kind of directors. I still haven't seen Next Goal Wins, which is his newest movie, but it's on my list. Once it gets on like streaming that I don't have to pay for, I'm watching it.
Speaking of new age, Studio Ghibli. We need
Studio what?
Ghibli? Is it Ghibli?
Ghibli?
Studio Ghibli.
There's an L in there.
There's an L. Sorry guys, I don't watch, but I've heard that it's a thing and people love it. And
It's
Well, there,
it's a beautiful thing.
well, it's an amazing thing. Miyazaki is a master of his craft. And he's been doing it since mid 70s, I think. It's when
Something like that.
Nausicaa came out. Yeah, it would have to be mid 70s. And yeah, longtime collaboration with Joe Hisaishi, who is an amazing writer. His musical work is insane. His range is honestly pretty contained. He's talked about it openly. He's like, I don't want to write anything that I can't play on a piano. Which, you know what?
I respect.
Like, play to your strengths, King. Like, don't let anyone tell you something different.
Also, piano's like the best base for any kind of songwriting, or because it has such a principle and it's so easy to identify and follow that it's just a very smart way to go about writing.
Like basic, but in the best way.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, yeah, most composers are pianists.
Pianists,
right?
yeah.
I mean, John Williams he was a jazz pianist.
There
He
you go.
played piano on West Side Story.
Oh, yeah.
Oh God, West Side Story. Anyways.
Anywho.
No, he's really good at making like these very lush, very full like soundscapes. That just he's kind of, I don't want to say, because he doesn't do like, he's not a motif guy. He's very much he's much more traditional, where it's like big theme and then kind of things that kind of branch off out of there.
He's about the art.
He's about the art. No, he is. And what's interesting too is that his relationship with Miyazaki is kind of the same with like Williams and Spielberg, where his music is brought in way earlier in the production stage. She said for like multiple films that like he will have the entire score written before like in like pre-production, right? So before anything has even been drawn up, before keyframes are out, he'll put it out and then everything will be drawn to that sound.
Which is so cool because like, especially with Studio Ghibli and having that particular art style, that kind of takes a little bit more. Like it's not just like a movie where you're like, okay, actors go. Like it takes time, it takes craft, and like I think being able to like paint, or like especially because a lot of their stuff is like that watercolor and stuff, and that's just like even cooler to be like, okay, like I love that like audio. Let's like kind of pair the two up, just and then it makes like the best work ever.
No, it is. It's one of those things where once again it's like you can't take the visual from the musical element. Like it's just not possible to do.
No.
You can tell they're built for each other.
Yeah, they're intertwined.
Which is interesting because you would think with that, like, they would, between Miyazaki and Hisaishi, they would have like a very like deep personal relationship. Apparently, like, they're just like business bros.
That's so awesome.
They're just, apparently, like, they never, like, they don't go over for like to each other's house for dinner or anything like that. Like, they don't
Strictly
They
business.
don't do that.
Strictly business bros.
On the subject of animation, claymation.
Yeah.
Mr. Fox.
Yeah, Wes Anderson.
And
his, like, Wes Anderson as, like,
a creative.
a person, as, like, a person director or, like, human actor director, great. And then he was like, hey, guys, I have, like, a claymation idea. And then it's like, oh, my God, you've also slayed at that.
So
like,
great.
How?
Yeah. I mean, it's also, like, Tim Burton, where, I mean, Tim Burton's done claymations and a lot of his stuff is claymation, but he's also done amazing real actor kind of films.
Yeah.
And both of them have phenomenal soundtracks. The Nightmare Before Christmas. That that soundtrack is so iconic.
It's so beautiful. Danny Elfman
so beautiful.
popped off.
Love. But I think claymations would not be what they are without the music, honestly.
Yeah,
because
that's another, like, with like Studio Ghibli and like watercolor art and like, but with clay, that's another art form that takes forever.
I think animations are just really beautiful because it's like, it's a combination of the not like super obvious arts. Because drawing and writing are very, I feel like, often separate in the film world, and then you get to animations and it's like this beautiful like connection of the two. And then claymation, which is basically just sculpture at really tiny little bits in seconds, which is so difficult to even think that people can make movies out of little mini milliseconds of little bits of clay.
Literally, I saw the
crazy.
Leica exhibit at Mopop last summer.
Oh.
Oh my gosh, that's like, it's so insane. They're like, yeah, so this is like 50 different versions of Coraline's face for like one to make one expression, and you're like, jaw on the floor.
It's the coolest thing ever, and I think I love film, but I also like just admire claymation a lot more because it's so difficult.
Yeah, we have an animation course at OSU, and we focused like an entire unit on claymation just to be like,
as you should.
Yeah.
But anyways, with the music, I think the writing, the drawing and the music are just the combination of all the arts that we often don't appreciate enough.
Yeah.
Because actors are cool. Yeah, thanks. But like this stuff is really difficult too. And we don't talk about it.
Like actors that get to play with like just the talent to like be able to like
have like an animated voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you ever seen the outtakes, not outtakes, but some of like the stuff for like Fantastic Mr. Fox, where George Clooney is like, they like, there's a scene where, you know, they're riding in the motorcycle to the farm and they do.
Those are so funny.
And he's just sitting on the bike just,
Yeah.
what are we going to do?
What are we doing? There's another movie that like the behind the scenes like that is so ridiculous because they're just like, yeah, I don't remember which one it was. I also just saw like the behind the scenes for like Alvin and the Chipmunks and
Oh my
how
gosh.
slow they have to talk, like, but still like
It's like really
Yeah.
slow. And it's just like you're doing that for 8 hours a day. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy. I think if that happened to me, I would just stay permanently in slow voice until somebody's like, hey man, why are you talking like that? And oh, sorry.
I was just making sure.
Yeah, I was just making sure I was doing my job. Yeah.
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 Amergin, do you want to introduce our next song?
Well, I would love to introduce our next song because it is the theme from Patlabor 2 by another Japanese composer, Kenji Kawai, who is like he is one of the biggest film composers in Japan. However, slight problem. This dongle does not work for my iPhone.
Uh-oh.
Is there another one?
Technical
Is there a different dongle?
Did someone I remember one time I walked into the booth and someone stole.
I was so scared for a moment.
It was really
this
great.
was going to be. I thought this was like the only dongle, and we were just going to be done for.
We'll just hum, you know.
It's okay. I think there's some Michael Giacchino on the stack, so we would have been saved.
We'll just hum the beat, you know. We'll just do a little
Acapella.
No.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, this is the theme from Patlabor 2.
Encounter a single mean person. As much as you insist that you're mean, Jada.
I don't know if I'm.
For Black History Month here at Oregon State.
So keep the ball for there's not a great ball. Yeah. Oh, it's all eliminated. Oh, right in the gut. That was.
Just to press your topping down a little bit, make sure they fit, firmly on top of the sushi, and they won't come off.
Punch around to the bat too. Punching the Joker in the face and saving Gotham. I am right.
Doing a very big switch up of
Okay. Oh, Thriller. Oh my god, I love horror movies. My whole
I'm
personality.
really excited right now.
Okay, horror movies are my bread and butter. Okay, and we've got John Williams again. Jaws, right?
Yeah.
Jaws.
Coming back for Jaws.
Da-da.
Yeah,
Da-da-da-da-da.
literally 2 notes, and he was just like,
Yeah, this is enough.
he's like, this
enough.
is beautiful. Like less is more.
But that's the thing why I love thrillers so much is because yes, music is very important because it builds a suspense and now you're like really terrified, and I feel like a lot of scenes would either be a lot scarier without the music or would be very like mediocre without the music.
Yeah.
It just depends on what's happening. But Jaws is one of those because it's a shark.
Yeah.
You know, like you kind
It's
of have
not-
to have some music because
you're like, it's not like that scary, but like the like quiet like
of like it's coming. It's coming.
and then like into just a quick like your heart starts racing with it and you're like, oh my god.
Well, what's really interesting is like the da-da, da-da, da-da. Any anatomy freak is like, yo, that sounds like the lub dub. Like that sounds like the actual heartbeat. So like, I don't know like the engineering process of the song, but I feel like he purposely did that to make it sound like a faster paced heartbeat.
For sure.
Fibrillation. AFib. Hey, problem. Anyways. AFib. Then we've got Chainsaw Massacre on the list, which I'm from Texas, and that is our movie. That is Leatherface. He's practically my cousin. I'm kidding. No, that's such a lie. Really bad joke, because if you actually seen the movies, you know why that's a bad joke. Yeah. And okay, so Chainsaw Massacre is one of the horror movies where you actually start hearing like, sure, the instrumental of like the suspense building, but the tools that are being used are in the music.
Yeah,
like you can hear the chainsaw, you can hear like the motor, and that does everything because you're like, I know what that noise is and I'm terrified. So now like when you go to haunted horror mazes or haunted houses, you hear that and now it terrifies you, when before I used to be like, oh, my dad's doing the garden, you know, like my dad's working outside, but they made a normal sound that you hear absolutely terrifying.
Yeah,
unless you're a beef, then you get excited.
I was literally thinking about that. I was like, I don't know, sometimes you get a little down. I don't know. Defense.
And then we have the psychological horror movies. I'm gonna stop talking in a minute so you guys can take over, but psychological horror movies. So we've got The Clockwork Orange, we've got The Shining, you've got things like that where the tones are a lot like slower and they're a lot quieter, because what's terrifying is what's happening in front of you, not so much the music.
Yeah. The music adds like just enough to where you're like, oh god.
Yeah, it's like, because the thing about psychological horror is that it's scary enough because it's real. It can be real.
Yeah.
You know, people can have psychotic breaks that cause these things.
Yeah.
Like the fear in psychological horror is not a deity or a demon or whatever. It's the human. It's the human experience that is terrifying.
Yeah.
And that's scary enough because it could happen to you any day.
Yeah.
It's just waiting.
Yeah, that's like with Halloween. Like, it's not necessarily like anything particular. It's just like literally being like stalked.
Yeah.
By a man. And being a woman.
Yeah.
Like, and that's terrifying.
Yeah. And so that's scary enough. So that's why you see those tones are a lot quieter. And in a lot of like foreign horror films, sometimes there's no music at all. And like not having the music,
it's just silence. Definitely. And that's like John Krasinski did with like A Quiet Place. Right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
He's just like
no music, and just
that's like
breathing and just hearing how loud you can be and how that dictates that you're there, and how the killer can very much hear you, or hearing the killer side. Hearing their tools drag against the floor, hearing them heavy breathe,
or like the step, like the footprints,
exactly. And so sometimes the lack of music can do a lot for a movie, and sometimes it can do It can do a lot or nothing. It just depends on what your goal is.
Yeah, and I think it also depends on whether it's a newer or like an older horror film. I feel like with older horror films, it was kind of like if it was something like on the simpler side, like Halloween, where it's like, year one, like iconic, like
you kind of just use the same theme over and over again.
But like it still's like, oh god, Michael's coming.
Yeah, because you know.
Oh gosh.
You're like groomed to like hear this noise and be like, oh, I know what's coming. I'm scared.
Yeah.
But like Parasite, another really great psychological horror film that uses music. Very, very good.
Yeah, they did a good job with that one.
Phenomenal. They did win what's it called? An Oscar, right?
Yeah.
I think
They could have won one for their soundtrack. It's so good. It's amazing.
Well, that year was like pretty
stacked.
If I remember correctly, that was a pretty stacked year. Yeah.
Yeah. A really, really great year for film.
Yeah. Speaking of Halloween, we are gonna play Halloween Ends real quick, and then when we come back, we're gonna rapid fire rank our top 3 like scores of all time for all 3 of us, and then that's how we're gonna wrap up the show. But really quickly, here's Halloween Ends by John Carpenter, also the director and writer of the film Halloween.
He did everything.
King, love him. But yeah, Halloween Ends. So I hope you guys aren't scared if you're driving or if it's dark. Or if it's dark where you are. Stay safe, y'all. Here it is.
Is this thing even on? Hello, everybody. This is DJ Trainwreck. The show is Derailed, the only show where a man blows a train whistle in your ears.
Hi, this is DJ Rock Lobster, and you're listening to Happy Hour.
This is DJ Dolomite, and you're listening to The Subduction Zone.
Tune in to hear more at kbvrfm.orangemedianetwork.com or live on the air at 88.7.
And we're back. a short break.
A spooky break.
Short song. Yeah. Hope you guys are okay out there.
Did everybody outrun Michael?
Did you guys outrun him?
Is everybody okay?
Now we're going to do our top 3 scores, soundtracks of movies. So does anyone want to go first?
I mean, you're first on the sheet.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, when I was looking at these, I was like, this is actually hilarious. Like, which ones we all picked. I was in like, because I picked these after looking like through my CDs and stuff, which I just happen to have a lot of Disney.
Just by coincidence.
Yeah. Sorry guys, I'm a Disney adult. I can't help it. I'm working through the condition. But my number 3 is Tangled. We played Tangled for our Disney episode. I ranted about it. I love Tangled. Sorry.
There's not much more you can say.
Yeah. My number 2, Pirates of the Caribbean. Just
agreed. Honestly, really good.
Dun, 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 dun. Like pirates are so cool.
Determination.
Hans Zimmer is prime.
Literally. And then I picked Star Wars as number 1. I kind of like also like I like use all 3 of these to study a lot. So I think that's also what influenced it for like scores of being like, yeah, if I just need to like sit down and grind, any 3 of these, beautiful.
Yeah. I'm next. I don't know if you could tell. So I didn't really put these in any like particular order. So Fight Club is one of mine. I love the movie, but also I love how the music very much coincides with what's happening and just like the psychotic break of the main character. I just love it. It's so good. And what's really interesting is Brad Pitt listened to Radiohead throughout this whole movie, like filming it. But he was really disappointed to find out that, in fact, Radiohead was not involved, and he was a little devastated. But you can, I mean, when you watch them, I feel like Radiohead should be here.
Yeah.
But they weren't. Anyways, next I have Dune.
Oh, we didn't even talk about Dune.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. Anyways. No, we didn't. Yeah, just the soundtrack is so good. Hans Zimmer just absolutely killed it. Like, he killed it. Mm-hmm. And then The Crow, because that's where all the good goth artists are. And the movie's just phenomenal, and Brandon Lee's beautiful. But that's besides the point. Great story, great soundtrack. Take it away, Amergin.
All right. So number 3, Ghost in the Shell. This is from the same Kenji Kawai guy. I don't know. I'm a big like retro future fan. So it sounds like I said, it sounds like all the sounds you'd hear out of like a PlayStation put to like a melody. And that was, I don't know, growing up, that identify, I feel that a lot.
I felt that.
Second, Taxi Driver. It's the last soundtrack by Bergen Herman.
Yeah.
It's just honestly, throw every song out, just the that saxophone. Oh my goodness.
I wish you guys could have seen what he did when he did that.
So good. Insane. And number 1 is Once Upon a Time in America. Soundtrack by Ennio Morricone, who is like the spaghetti western guy. Interesting. We were talking about like music coming in when pre-production and stuff.
Yeah.
Sergio Leone, the guy who directed like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, the whole Dollars trilogy, Once Upon a Time in America, he actually played the music to this. So like when the actors like doing the scenes, like he's playing the music in the back, and that's specifically like get the actors like in the mood for the scene.
Which that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like theater almost.
Yeah.
Where it's like you have like an orchestra pit in the front and you're just like playing to that.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why like the timing for some of the scenes feels so weird, because they're listening to the like it's playing out. They know exactly where
beat. Okay.
No, those are my favorites.
Such like a wide variety of films too.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that is our show.
Yeah, that's
it, my friends.
That's kind of all we got for y'all today.
All right.
Thanks for listening, if you're listening live today for our radio show.
Thank you.
If not, thanks for watching once this comes out on TV.
Or both, if you do both.
Yeah, if you're
Thank you.
a true stan and watch both or listen to the radio and watch the show.
Greatly appreciate the support.
We appreciate you.
A true M-tower.
We see you. We see you. We know
appreciate
you. We love you.
Yeah, if you want to see more from us, definitely check out KBVR on YouTube and also Instagram, or KBVR TV on YouTube, Instagram, all of that jazz. If you want to just see more of our content, our next episode is going to be really fun. It's about the Corvallis music scene. We followed a house show band and got to see a lot of really cool things. So definitely.
It has a cat in it.
Really cool records.
There's a cat,
Hello.
if that entices you. But be on the lookout for that. And again, thanks everyone so much for listening, watching, and we'll see y'all next time.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.